Welcome back. Here's a selection from 2005, at least that I can understand. This was a journal that I called the Journal of Noncompliance Issues. This is about Nintendo. The way we teach our children, train our employees, or even absorb knowledge for ourselves has become more and more simplified to a point where we ought to be ashamed of ourselves. I blame Nintendo, despite the fact that USA Today was created in order to lure us into reading a newspaper by presenting us with colorful graphics and shorter articles. The English translation of Nintendo, I've come to believe, is Japan's revenge. After World War II, the Japanese put all of their military funding into technology. This ultimately led to Nintendo, the atom of home video gaming systems, that slowly but surely stole us away from our homework and reading and our attention span. Nintendo begat Sega, Sega begat Super Nintendo, Super Nintendo begat Sega Genesis, which begat the Sony PlayStation, Nintendo 64, and the Sega Dreamcast. Then came PlayStation 2, Nintendo GameCube, and the Xbox. Somewhere in there, Sega died out. In the midst of all that, we also witnessed the birth of Magic the Gathering, which captured a lot of old school Nintendo players and Dungeons & Dragons geeks, but it didn't appeal to the more impressionable audiences, so Magic the Gathering begat Pokemon. In the end, all of these became accessories for babysitting, and then evolved into the babysitters. In 2005, it's now become an addiction as well as a form of leverage for our kids and a bargaining chip for us. Because of all this, society now has to present education in flashy MTV pseudo-video game kinds of ways, offering knowledge in small bite-sized pieces for not only our children, but for a lot of us. A perfect example that I'm familiar with is Barnes & Noble. When I worked there, we had to learn from thick binders full of words and procedures. This evolved into manuals, still in binders, but with bullet points and multiple reference tabs. Same information, but presented in a book selling for dummies kind of way. Next came visual manuals with pictures to illustrate standards and videos. They tried to supplement this with the learning library, which was more like the original manuals in bite-sized notebooks. It was met with resistance. Nobody had time to read it at work, certainly not on their breaks, and like hell we would take it home and read it. Most booksellers wouldn't even seek out one specific piece of information from these reference manuals if it was easier to ask around to find out somebody who already knew. In essence, can I copy your homework? Now I've found out Barnes & Noble booksellers, or at least back in 2005, learn store standards in the form of a board game. I see this watering down everywhere. I'm convinced I would have to stop repeating things over and over to the same people if only I could create a video game to explain it, or promise to buy them some Pokemon cards if they'd listen.